What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Godsey for Justin Godsey TV. Thank you so much for checking out tonight's video. Tonight, guys, I got 3 videos that's going to be uploaded for you guys. This is going to be during, different times of the night. I'm going to be covering the top 3 matches on UFC on Fox 12, which was Robbie Lawler versus Matt Brown. And this was overall an excellent fight card, from the preliminary matches on UFC Fight Pass and on Fox to the main event, which saw Robbie Lawler versus Matt Brown. We're going to go in full detail about the top 3 fights, which will be Dennis Bermudez versus Clay Guida, Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Little Nog, and also you got the catchweight fight between Robbie Lawler and Matt Brown. Now, like I said before, this was overall a fantastic event. I think this, this year for the UFC has been, full of surprises, full of excellent fight cards. I've yet to be, upset at a fight card. There were a couple of matches or a couple of bouts that I felt kind of iffy about. But you know what, the event as a whole, or the year as a whole, in all honesty, has been fantastic. And the UFC is continuing to put on some great fights. And I just cannot wait till the next event. We're going to end up having a title fight against, you got the bantamweight title fight between TJ Dillashaw, and you also have the next time they're going to be on pay-per-view. I'm sorry, I'm just like out of it right now. We're going to have the title fight between Renan Barão and TJ Dillashaw. So overall, it's going to be a very excellent, fight card. But the next time they're going to be on TV will be Ryan Bader versus Ovia St. Peru. The original next fight card was supposed to be 176, Aldo versus Mendez, but an injury, canceled the card. That would be the second event that UFC has canceled. But you know what? Let's get right into tonight's video and talk about UFC featherweight matchup, Dennis Bermudez versus Clay Guida. I'm going to be recapping this entire fight. This was a very interesting fight for both competitors. Dennis "The Menace" Bermudez is rising vastly in this UFC featherweight division, a very crowded featherweight division. A great backstory, into this matchup. Dennis Bermudez was once a top 10 ranked competitor. All of a sudden, once Conor McGregor, who was sidelined all of 2013 with a knee injury, tearing his ACL, he came back just last week against Diego Brandao, defeated Diego Brandao, easily in his home country, and all of a sudden he gets instantly put into the top 10 rankings in the UFC. Dennis Bermudez fell to number 12, and Dennis said, that's kind of shocking. I'm really disappointed, but you know what? I have a fight coming up against Clay Guida. That just means, I gotta seal the deal now. It's time for me to go to work. It's time for me to do this. It's time for me to get this victory, a much needed victory to continue my winning streak. Now he's currently on a 7-fight winning streak, that started back at UFC on Fox back in 2012. Has not seen, the loser's circle in almost 2 years, and he's holding he has the second longest winning streak next to Jose Aldo in their featherweight division. His winning streak started back when he defeated Pablo Garza at UFC on Fox, Jim Miller versus Nate Diaz. Then he also have his matchup at UFC 150 against Tommy Hayden. Matt Grice followed up, Max Holloway, who I also interviewed before, Steven Siler, Jimmy Hedges, and most recently tonight, Clay Guida. Bermudez won via a submission, a rear naked choke submission victory. It was a much-needed victory for himself. Now, a lot of people are looking at this fight as, what's next for both fighters. Dennis Bermudez, at the end of the show, at the end of the fight, said it clearly. He wants a top 5 competitor, no matter who it is. He wants it because he's really deserving of a title fight. I mean, yes, when you look at his winning streak, it's 7 straight fights, full of victories. But you know what? Clay Guida was that high ranking, that big name who's ranked in the UFC rankings at featherweight, but he has never faced, that top competitor. But you know what? With this victory and this victory over Clay Guida, it's going to give him that opportunity to venture more into and getting some more fights against, highly ranked opponents. Now, being in the top 5, I can see some question marks. I still think he needs to, fight someone outside the top 5. I can see top 10 maybe. But when you look into the top 5 rankings, I don't see, he's ready for it as of yet, because you still got to go through, you have that title fight, that featured title fight between Chad Mendes, and you also have Jose Aldo. It's just a big cluster out there in the featherweight division inside the UFC. I wanted to see Chan Sung Jung maybe, but those could be all possibilities. I would love to see Dennis Bermudez fight in the top 5, but top 10 seems more than likely in his next fight. Now, what does this mean for Clay Guida? Clay Guida is always a treat to watch in the UFC. His attitude, his entrances, his crazy fights. I mean, you look back into his career. Clay Guida has put on some excellent matches, whether it's Diego Sanchez, you name it. He had a decorative career. I really do. You got to give the guy respect. He's still fighting at his age, at age 32. You got to show what, you know, the honor and the privilege, and, you know, what he left in this octagon tonight. You know, do I see him coming into, you know, his next fight as, you know, is he going to end up... Because the past is the past. You know, Clay Guida has had an excellent past. He has not had... You know, he's past his prime right now. It's time that he's taking a step back. I would love to see him back in the octagon pretty soon. But, you know, his chances right now of, you know, taking a deep run at a title fight, you know, he's got to go through a whole lot. I can see, you know, somewhat of a fall in his rankings. He was originally the rank number 7 in the featherweight division. I can see this loss to Dennis Bermudez at maybe at 9. I can see him losing 2 spots, and you can see, you know, Dennis Bermudez come in at number 9, but Dennis Evero will also lost. Maybe at number 10 could be, you know, at worst for Clay Guida, and, you know, you can probably end up seeing, you know, McGregor move up a spot or 2, but, you know, we don't know how this whole rankings will be about, but at the end of the day, Clay Guida did lose. I would love to see a fight between him and possibly Charles Oliveira, maybe even a Darren Elkins, you know, a fight that can get him back on the map. He's still going to be within the top 15 opponents. He's going to be competing against them, and it's going to be the right thing to do. Why would you want to have him in another fight against the back end of this UFC featherweight division? I know the UFC signed a couple of other great featherweights, but you know what? He's still a top-ranked opponent, and he's not going to fall out of at least a top, you know, 12 or 13. He could drop all the way down to 14 or 15 after this loss to Dennis Bermudez. So let me hear your guys' opinion about this. The Menace Bermudez defeats Clay Guida via a rear naked choke at UFC on Fox 12. I'm Justin Godsey for Justin Godsey TV, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.